emotions and that fire. Let's see how you move, darling. Oh, baby, these looks are flawless.
Hello, guys, and welcome back to the Unfiltered Feed podcast. This is episode 13, and as you can see, uh, today I'm going solo for this episode as Yash has some prior commitments which he could not avoid. I couldn't avoid recording this episode, so I'll be going solo this week, but you can see me back from next week. So the world of cricket keeps moving on and we've got a lot of things to talk about. The India versus Australia series started and then the Women's World Cup and a bit of cricket that's going on around the world. So we'll cover all of that. It will be a shorter episode, but before we begin or before I begin, I would like to really appreciate all the support that we've been getting, especially on our short form content. We have been working hard to improve it, and I think the number of views and likes that we are getting is slowly but steadily increasing. So I would like to thank all the viewers, and I just hope that more of you are directed towards our full length episodes. So that will be our aim in the coming future. So let us begin with the most hyped series as an Indian at least, which was the India Tour of Australia limited over series, and it began yesterday with the first ODI at the Optus Stadium in Perth. India were blown away, to be very honest. It was a rain curtailed game, so we didn't have kind of a continuity that you want in an innings. I think, if I'm not wrong, there were about 4 to 5 breaks in play due to rain in India's innings. So it was, of course, really hyped up because of the return of Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli, and both of them failed. Though I personally did expect that to happen because they were coming back after a very long time. And how much ever you practice in the nets or in uh, warm-up matches or whatever, playing in a proper international fixture is always different. So this was bound to happen. And what I didn't like was a bit of overreaction from the Indian crowd, which is the case with almost everything that the Indian team, or especially Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli, do. But I didn't like that. You saw people going overboard with these two are the saviors. These two will be the reason India wins the World Cup in 27. Watch them roar back and all of that even before the series started. And as soon as the first game is over, you have the same people now saying that is one format theory really valid and should they be left out and can they pick themselves anymore? So it just doesn't make sense to overhype them first and then go hard on the criticism. So I think they will come good because ODIs are of course their strong format and there's a reason why they have opted out of other formats but continued to stay in the ODI game. So I see both of them performing very soon. I think no comments should be made on their position at least till the New Zealand series in Jan, which includes this series, the home series versus South Africa, and then the home series versus New Zealand. So I think that would be a fair amount of time to judge if they really are looking set for the 27 World Cup. Even after that, we have a fair amount of games. So if the selectors think that they aren't looking good to make the cut, you still have about 18 to 20 ODIs before the World Cup to kind of get new players in and try out other combinations. So I think till these 9 games get over, there's no point arguing or even discussing the positions of Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli. So the other things to look, or the other kind of highlights from this game were, I think KL Rahul really impressed me. Uh, the way he batted kind of reminded me of his way of batting before lockdown, which was kind of a flamboyant KL Rahul. Somewhere over the years, just faded away and it just became a shadow of his aggressive past. But I won't say that he's really become that careless and someone who just doesn't really think twice before playing shots. He's matured in that sense. But just his stroke play reminded me of his old self, which is a very good sign for India. And nothing else really to look forward to in the batting department. In the bowling as well, it was a game where you can't really take out any conclusions as such. It just felt like an exhibition match, and you can't really judge anything based on this one game. I think for Australia, Josh Hazelwood and Mitchell Stark both played together after a long time, I think, and they did well. Mitchell Stark with the new ball and Hazelwood as well. So a lot of positives for them. But even for someone who's done well, this game cannot really be a benchmark. So I'm looking forward to the rest of the series and we'll try to make more conclusions from those games. There's a long gap. I don't know why. The next game is only on Thursday, which is 5 days in between two ODIs. But anyways, we will be recording a next episode after that game. So we'll have a better idea after the Adelaide ODI. So now let us quickly move on to the Women's World Cup, which has lost a bit of steam along the way. I think initially there was a lot of hype and the games were really good as well. But in the past week or so, I think the persistent rains in Colombo, which we had already predicted on this podcast, that it was not a good idea to have so many games in Colombo. And that is exactly what is happening. Rain interruptions in each and every game in Colombo so far hasn't helped the cause. And you have got a lot of washouts, which has made the fun of any World Cup is the qualification dilemmas. Because when you have a single round robin, you're already removing a lot of the main fun of a multi-nation tournament, the knockouts and the groups and all that. So what you're left with is towards the end, there's a particular qualification dilemma for a couple of teams at least. But what this rain and the washouts have done is that they've removed even that part. So I think this World Cup is set to become one of the most boring or meaningless or whatever you call it kind of a tournament. India, of course, at the time of recording, on the day of recording, they lost the third game in a row. When the schedule came out, we all saw that India beginning with two easy games versus Sri Lanka and Pakistan, then three tough games in the middle, which can kind of be the make or break for you, and then two games, two easy games at the end. So I didn't expect India to win all three against Australia, South Africa, and England, but surely I didn't expect them to lose all three either because they're playing in their home conditions. But India managed to do that. And every time they came very, very close to winning and they just couldn't. Just the final hurdle. I think even today, at one stage, they needed 64 runs of the final 10 overs with 7 wickets in hand. Smriti Mandhana and Deepti Sharma both were batting really well. And then suddenly, they were reminded of the World Cup final from 2017 and it just went downhill. Smriti Mandhana just casually hit one in the air straight to long off when she was on 88 and the game was well set. Maybe Had she chopped off another 20 runs off the target, we would have been in a safe position. And maybe uh, her thinking would have been that we are in a safe position with 55 needed in 54. And she just went for a big shot. Had it worked, I think that would have been the killer blow because you have lesser runs than balls remaining and you are in a very strong position. And the opposition will also lose that kind of spark after the equation gets that easy. So I could understand that, but it wasn't a safe shot. And at that stage, maybe now she will learn. I don't know how many such games do they need to learn something, but I don't think it was the right shot. The thinking was correct to get a four or a six and just kill it once and for all. But I don't think the shot that she chose was the right one. And once she got out, you had Richa Ghosh and Amanjot Kaur, both of them having proven that they are capable of finishing, though they haven't done it while chasing, but they still have played in these conditions in this World Cup, and both of them couldn't really finish it off for India, and they lost by 4 runs. So England qualified for the semis. Australia and South Africa have already done that. That leaves just one spot open for potentially two teams in contention, which are India and New Zealand. And guess what? They will be playing against each other. So I won't call that a knockout, though if India lose that, I really think that they don't deserve to qualify. Though they still can, even if they lose against New Zealand, because New Zealand's last game is versus England, and there are high chances of England defeating New Zealand, which would mean that India can still qualify by just beating Bangladesh. But I don't think they deserve to qualify if the only teams they could beat in a home World Cup are Sri Lanka, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. So I think that's why I feel it is important for India to defeat New Zealand so that they gain confidence and they go into the semis with some pride. They will be playing the first ranked team because that's how the semifinals work. First place fourth and second place third. So India will in all likeliness finish fourth. They can't go any higher. So they will in all likeliness play the first placed Australian team. So 9 out of 10 times that is the end of your World Cup campaign right there. But you never know. And that has been the philosophy of this Indian team. You never know. So I'm hoping for one miracle, just one miracle, because if you defeat Australia and go into the finals, I think that's something they did in 2017. They will have a very good chance of winning the final as well. So all eyes on that. And next, we'll have to shift not too far from India, where the Women's World Cup is happening, to Oman, where the 20 World Cup qualifiers just concluded, and we got our three final teams that will take part in the T20 World Cup next year in India and Sri Lanka. So with those three, now we have all 20 teams confirmed. Those three were Oman, UAE, and Nepal. So now we've got our 20 teams. And I was reading a stat which said that this World Cup has more diverse participation from continents than the FIFA World Cup has, which is really surprising because cricket has notoriously been famous for not being diverse and not being a global sport. But now the times have changed. Though Asia accounts for about 8 out of the 20 teams. So basically it's kind of a mini Asia Cup uh, within the World Cup, and you also have uh, teams from almost every continent, which is really good to see. So I think the qualifiers, Oman and Nepal pretty much dominated, and UAE were in a bit of trouble in as the tournament progressed, but eventually they made it through. I think Samoa, Japan, and Qatar were really good as well. They made the Super Six as well, along with the three qualified teams. I did catch glimpses of pretty much all of the teams at some point, and to be honest, Qatar weren't too bad. They had Nepal in trouble for a large part of their fixture and almost pulled it off. And even Japan weren't really as bad as you would expect them to be. So I think cricket is growing, and T20 is the right format to expand the game. That is what gets proven every time you see these teams play. Even in the World Cup, we have seen the biggest upsets always happen in the T20 format, in and outside World Cups. So USA beat Pakistan in T20s. You saw USA beat Bangladesh in a T20 series. As recently as last month, you saw Nepal defeat West Indies in a T20 series. So this is the format where it is the most level playing field, and just a few good overs or one out of the blue performance and your team has a chance. So that was good to see. And I just hope that ICC look to expand this game further. And talking about the T20 World Cup, it's also important to mention and keep mentioning this, highlighting the incompetence of BCCI and ICC, that we still do not have the schedule of the T20 World Cup, which is embarrassing because the event which is a global event, is in now 4 months' time, and you still don't have the schedule. So from the very start, you are limiting access for the foreign travelers and fans of teams which are not India. So I just don't get it because I think 4 months is a good enough, is at least the minimum amount of time needed. In an ideal world, at least 8 to 10 months should be given for fans to really make arrangements and plan their travels. But just because it's India and obviously Indian fans will fill up the stadiums for every game, so they do not bother to pay any heed to other fans, which is really not good. And it's not the first time BCCI are doing this. I've seen them do that in the previous ODI World Cup, even in the Women's World Cup, which is going on. So it is embarrassing, but it is important to mention this because the incompetence someday it has to end. There's no point limiting access to just a set of fans just because you know that they are the biggest set of fans and they will fill every stadium doesn't mean you do not give an opportunity for fans from other parts of the world to come and experience this event. So it's really sad, but hopefully at least now they've learned the lesson and at least now they do launch the schedule as soon as possible. And just as I'm talking, it's a pleasant surprise that I've gotten a message from Yash uh, that he will be home in 15 minutes. I don't know if by the time he comes, this podcast will be on. So, anyways, we'll see what can be done. If he can make an appearance, it would really be a good surprise for me and the audience. So, let us talk about some cricket that is going on apart from the ones we've already talked about. Um, I think Bangladesh versus West Indies was an interesting game that I saw, and I highly recommend you go and see at least the highlights, because the pitch that was used in that game had a lot of nostalgia attached to it. It was a very brown, completely dark brown pitch, and I think it's something you would associate with the 2011 World Cup, those kind of typical Asian pitches. With another thing that I will come to, it just made the entire look and feel, even the scorecard complemented it. Just made it feel like a very old game, like a 2011 World Cup game. So we aren't getting Yash on the podcast this week. Uh, so let us continue. I think the thing that really complemented this was ICC's new rule, which is that you have two new balls, but only till 35 overs, after which you choose one and go with that for the remaining 15 overs, which really is a master move in my opinion, because it brings in reverse swing, which is a art. So it's not a straight up clear advantage to the bowling team, but it is a way to kind of get back some ground. If you are artistic and if you are skillful enough, you can extract reverse swing using the older ball. So that's a very good move. And I was a bit skeptical, to be honest. I was wondering how that would work and will it really be that impactful? But now that it's been around 3 to 4 months since this rule has been implemented, I've seen it work well. Of course, the India versus Australia game, you couldn't, because it was a rain curtailed game. It was a very short game. But the Bangladesh West Indies game really showed it. And complementing that pitch, the ball getting scuffed up, there was some reverse swing available, though it was a spin track, so we didn't really need to use it. But the old ball, really, this move is a successful one. And I have to compliment ICC for that. Uh, it would be really good to see it with more mainstream matches. And how does this rule benefit teams? And does it affect their thinking and strategies? So this is one rule. Now the next rule that I would like them to see is to bring back is the batting power play. Uh, it was a wonderful rule, but at this time I would like to see them do is remove 2 overs of power play from the start, so make it an 8 over power play, or even better, 6 over power play, just like T20s, and add those overs anytime after 35, which is the point you've chosen for the ball rule. So the same point, just for ease of thought. So after 35 overs, the bowlers get to pick one ball and bowl with that, and the batters can have a 4 over batting power play and make it a much better contest and brings in a lot of additional kind of scenarios and situations which can develop. And that is something that people often complain that ODIs lack. So I think that would be a good rule. And that would be my suggestion to improve ODIs. The next step could be this. Any other thoughts? I think there's a lot of innovative ideas and a lot of talented people. So you can also comment down below if you have any other suggestions. So I think that was pretty much all that I wanted to cover. As I said, it will be a short episode, but I would like to end with a topic not directly related to the on-field action, but something that really ruins the experience as a viewer, and that is online fan bases. I think this is not the first time that you might hear about this, but these certain fan bases or users or accounts online, they don't really improve the cricketing experience in any way. I've seen them, or I've been told by others who see them, I'm not too active on social media, so my range is pretty limited to YouTube. But from what I make out, there are these accounts that kind of portray themselves to be fans of certain individuals, which itself is ironic because it's a team sport, and in that you are trying to show that you are a fan of an individual, and uh, maybe in that account, 80% of the content is not about the player they stand, but about other players, and they try to bring them down, which is a very weird and I don't know from where this mindset has come and become mainstream on social media. That you do not firstly you stand an individual in a team sport, and then most of your content or tweets are about bringing down other people from the same team most of the times or in the same sport, and very little about how the player you like is better than them or how your player is good. Less about that and more about how everyone else is bad. So I don't like that really becoming mainstream and just giving all these names, setting names of cricketers online. I don't really want to even mention those names, but we all know that calling Virat Kohli as uh, something and calling Rohit Sharma as something it just doesn't make sense. It's okay if it's done in a light mood, but the kind of extremes that some people reach doesn't feel like that. And it has been voiced out previously as well. Uh, the fact that people like Harsha Bhogle have also been speaking about this shows that it is no longer a caveat online. It has become a mainstream problem, and you need people to address it. I know it's a very childish thing to complain about online troll, but it really doesn't sit well with me that as a nation that takes pride in its cricket, uh, we've got a bunch of these people online who actively spread hate against their own cricketers most of the time. And I don't know what is achieved by doing this, because at the end of the day, nothing changes. You win that argument, or sometimes you just indulge in an argument for no reason. You make up an argument, you win it, and then what? You just move on, and nothing really changes in life unless you are uh, a loser who has nothing else to look forward to in life. Then it makes sense, but I'm sure nobody is that helpless in life that they have to resort to winning made up arguments online about players who don't even know these people. So these were my 2 cents, and I'm sure a lot of people will resonate with what because it's not good to really have this culture growing in our nation. And there's so many other things to look forward to in sport. This is one aspect that I don't like, and hopefully people realize this sooner than later that whatever they do in the name of fanboyism, it just doesn't affect anybody in a positive way. If it does in a negative way for sure. So there's no point doing that. So with these 2 cents, I would like to conclude the podcast for this week. We of course have our IPL special coming out later this week, which is part two covering the Punjab Kings and the Rajasthan Royals. So stay tuned for that. And till then, this is Wade signing off.